Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to How to Win at Chess. This is a series where I take on my Twitch subscribers in 10-minute rapid games, and I go up the rating ladder. This episode is rating 1200 to 1700, right around that intermediate advanced range. And before we get into the games today, I want to shout out a couple of things. Number one, as always, for the first day or two that this comes out, there is a 33% off code that I'm going to tell you in the middle of the video, and you can use that to get 33% off any of my courses. Link is in the description. Second, G Fuel, who is my sponsor for the next year, sent me a refrigerator, which I have not yet actually talked about. It just sort of appeared in the background. Shout out to G Fuel. Much love to you guys. Thanks for sponsoring ya boy for a year. And you can get G Fuel products for 10 to 30% off using code Gotham. Link is in the description to that too. And one more thing. This is not sponsored. This actually comes from my heart, so don't go anywhere. I went to a chiropractor, and for many of you that don't know, I have lower back problems, and I have had a herniated disc since I was 16 years old. Recently, about 2 months ago, got really bad again. I couldn't really walk that well, and it was a lot of pain. And I went to David Levine, and the guy's amazing. I have to say, he didn't pay me to do this. It's not like a sponsored thing. I just told him I would shout him out. And if any of you are in need of something like that, pain management, this guy is like literally a magician when it comes to this kind of stuff. And best doctor I've ever went to. And I've put his link in the description as well. So with that 90-second intro, let's get into the games. First person up is William Hogbin. So here we go. I'm trying to remember if I missed anything. I don't think so. There we go. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of my water. I think I'm going to start out with D4. I'm gonna start out with maybe a London. You know, recently rebooted my opening series. Also, I like these Win at Chess episodes because they're really long. So as long as I have energy, I can actually like talk about a lot of different things. And almost if you watch one of these, it's like a mini podcast. So I'm gonna reboot a lot of my opening videos because they're not as high quality as I would like them to be. I made them before I was like a serious YouTuber, so the quality was much lower. All right, by the way, my opponent's made an accuracy on move 2. What my opponent needs to do is go learn a line against the London, because knight c6 is not it. You should not be putting your knight in front of your c-pawn. This is pretty inaccurate already. I can develop in a few ways. c4 is actually considered best against knight c6. But the truth is that if you just play normally, like, and you know, just put up like a normal London setup against this knight on c6, some people struggle against this, but the way you win the battle in the London is for the 2 center squares. This is a normal move. Now actually c4 becomes a bit stronger because b7 has no guard. So see, I've waited to see what I'm gonna do with this pawn, but I'm what am I thinking to play here? Yeah, let's go with c4. c4 gains a lot of strength once the bishop is no longer defending this, because then your queen can actually trot out over here. Queen b3 now or knight c3, both probably pretty reasonable. Bishop e2 is pretty reasonable. A lot of reasonable moves here. I guess I will go with queen b3. Bishop b4 is not a stupid move at all to give me a check and stop my queen, but I'll just develop and then I'll kick out the bishop. And I'm not really worried about damaging my pawn structure. Rook b8, yeah, I mean, that does deal with the threat very much. Can I immediately start jumping into the middle here? Or should I just develop a piece? I feel like I should just develop a piece. If my opponent takes, we'll kind of show how to play that position. Bishop d6 might happen, bishop e7 might happen. Bishop b4 is not, yeah, well, it's played, but now I'm going to get the bishop pair. So what I recommend here is, although I could go to e5 still, and I could still develop. There's still some flexibility in the position. I'm going to go for this bishop pair, because I don't really see why I wouldn't. Oh. That was unexpected. Because the bishop can get trapped. Like if my pawn could leapfrog my queen, unfortunately that's illegal. So what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna get my king out of the middle, and then we're gonna figure it out. So like this. Oh, that's completely tragic. Wow, that's the first time in history. Wow. That's the first time in history I've mouse flipped in one of these episodes. Yeah, that's brutal. Okay, well, how to recover from being worse in the opening. Actually, This is not that terrible because the center is pretty closed, right? So we haven't traded any pawns, so the position is not that open. And the truth is, sometimes you make mouse slips that look kinda disastrous, and the opponent will then play really aggressively because they think they need to punish this, but because they haven't set up in the optimal way, they don't really have a way to do so. So even here, I'm thinking to play g takes, but I'm gonna take with the bishop. Yeah, see, like this, that's exactly what I said. So now I'm just gonna take. So my opponent played too aggressively to try to punish my mouse slip and blundered a pawn. Didn't do anything, didn't do any damage there, unfortunately. And now this bishop is still out of place. So I really want to move my queen and then trap the bishop with my pawns. I could go c5. It's not a bad move, but c5 is going to come no matter what. The only way for the opponent to survive is to move the c pawn up, which can't happen unless the knight moves. I'm not really sure where the knight is going, and if you move the c pawn up, I'm going to take the rook. So knight c6 is just a bad setup. You guys got to stop putting your knight in front of your c pawn, please. Can I take? So here's the thing. I can take, right? Then my queen's going to be hanging. I can go queen a4. The bishop is under attack. And then the bishop moves. And then I play c5 and I trap the bishop. The only reason I wouldn't do that is I'm opening my position too much. So you see what I did there? I found a specific reason, a specific way to win material. I'm hesitating because I don't want to unnecessarily open my opponent's position. However, what are my alternatives? That's what you got to think about. Well, my bishop's under attack, so I can move my bishop back. Here's the problem. If I wait too long, my opponent might get aggressive with me. Like, just start creating play. So I think this is the way to go. I actually think I got to do it this way. And then play queen to a4. I could also play queen back to c2 and try to win it with the pawns, but now what I think my opponent's best plan here is to sack the bishop for activity. So either rook b2, queen a5, or bishop b6, c5 takes. When I take, the queen can now go here. That's very difficult to see from this position. But it's not as difficult to see here. The most difficult thing about spotting this with the queen coming in here is how the board changes as you make trades and advance pieces. I'm actually curious if my opponent sees this sacrifice and coming to d3. So now I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to go, what if I take this first? Like, what if I just stay patient? Because that bishop's not going anywhere. Maybe what I can do is just take a few things on the go with me and then play c5. So here, take, queen d3. Let's say I don't go to the middle, I go over here. And then rook takes b2. That looks scary. But is it? Is the question. Because what if I just make a little getaway from my king? Can I just survive that attack? Looks like I can. So my options are play it safe or get the piece. Take. And then maybe something like rook b2. That's not that scary because I can get out in time, I think. It seems like I can get out in time. Let's do it. Because it's what would be played at the 1200 level, right? They would play this move because it's a trap bishop. You just play it. You don't really think about it. I'm just showing you that there's options. And the stronger you get at chess, the more you're going to start thinking like, well, maybe that's actually a little bit too dangerous. Even though I get the bishop, it could be a bit too much. I don't know. Maybe I don't really want this. But it's fine. It's actually okay. And obviously you have to understand that you're not going toward the queen. You need to run away. The king's a little bit of a beta, especially because we didn't get to castle. So rook d8 looks like it threatens mate. It doesn't. However, if you take on c6, you will get mated. Queen d1 is a queen sacrifice mate. So queen c6 or this is GG. Actually, can we take this? Is that a fork? Not quite, because if we take that, then the rook takes b2. And then if we take the rook, we still get back rank mated. So probably the best move is actually to play this, to defend the b pawn from the rook, defend this because there is no mate at the moment. At the same time, I think the human decision here is just to make sure you never get mated. Just play h3, shut up. King to h2 will always be a thing now. You'll never have a problem. And once this rook gets into the game, we're just winning because we have a bishop, and William Hogbin might be a very good person, but does not have a bishop. So, yeah, no bishop for William Hogbin, and subsequently, we are winning the game. So that's the way you need to play this position. Here's rook b2, right? So the other way that we can lose is on the f2 square with queen to e2, but I think we're fine. So I actually think now we can go take on c6, then we can take on e6 check, then we can take on c7, and everything slowly falls apart. King h2, and even if we lose the f2 pawn, we have one last line of defense to our king. It's g2, which is now well protected. The bishop and the pawn also work well together. But sometimes in positions like this, you also have to keep in mind that there's random pawn moves that can deflect your bishop away from the defense of the position. But as long as you're not just over complicating things, you know, like, okay, take, king h2, we're fine. Queen d2 threatens this. Okay, I mean, first of all, we have rook f1. Second of all, we can take with check first. Like right now, we can take with check and then figure it out. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. See, danger levels. So there is no queen f2. That would be mate, but it's check. And now you just either play this or this. Or if you want to be fancy, run, they take, then you protect g2. That's another thing. And the benefit of that approach is that you actually get your rook into the game. That looks a little bit dangerous, but I don't actually see why it's bad. So I'm gonna do it. I'm sorry. The approach that I just mentioned to give away f2, I meant to say it looks a little dangerous, but it's actually okay. I'm gonna be completely safe though. Takes, and now we're safe. We're completely safe. The queen is under attack. Back rank mate is threatened. So actually the only move here is queen d8. That's the only move. Otherwise back rank mate. Because right now we have two threats. You have to play queen d8 now. And then we can win endgame style. So don't do this. That looks like it works with back rank mate. The problem is they take with check. Very common sometimes. You forget they take back with check. You can do the simple thing here, which is just take as many pawns as you can. Just, you know, just scoop up some free pawns. And at some point you will need to activate your rook. Or you can just go belligerently toward those weaknesses. So you can win this either now or in the endgame. You can win this in the endgame by trading some pieces. You can win this now by just going for the checkmate. Danger levels, danger levels, danger levels. Bishop e5. And on king g8, don't take this, but give one more check on e6. That's the killer. And now we take the rook. Because we had no other checks. If we had another check, I would have given it. So queen b8, I guess, is setting up an attack on our bishop in this. Couple of ways to play this. We can probably just give this check. If king g8, we have the battery mate. If king e8, oh, we have this. That's just the simplest. So that was actually the most forcing option. One way was mate. The other way was we scoop up this queen. Now you don't need to go to an endgame. You can just win this. Let's finally bring the rook. It's been 32 moves. I feel bad. Our rook hasn't moved yet. Here, I would recommend just giving checks until the end, although you can do something which is called like weaving a mating net. You can disallow the king's escape. So you can play a move like e4. And as long as it's not stalemate, now the king can't escape forward. And I believe that's actually mate, because all of the back rank is covered as well. Very pretty checkmate, little distance there. So this is covered, and then the queen covers this, and those two, and then these two squares are covered as well. So why did my opponent lose this game? First of all, they don't have a good enough weapon against the London. They're sort of improvising against the London, and from the opening, white is already getting a pretty decent advantage. Here, they should have committed to capturing. That bishop was the problem piece throughout the game, and even with the mouse slip, this was, like I said, just a little overexertion of energy. If I castled here, white is just clearly better. But if you never play this move, if you never take care of this, you can get into some serious trouble. And that's actually exactly what happened in the game. Because here after this and this, yeah. Queen c6 is actually the engine's top choice, which is pretty funny. Remember I said that c5 would not be the engine's top choice? Yeah, queen c6 the engine considers even cleaner because the bishop isn't going anywhere. You're going to trap it no matter what, and this way you're going to do it without allowing some massive counterplay, which is interesting. That's actually kind of pretty interesting. So hopefully that was useful. London course in the description, 33% off. You know what to do. I'm not telling you the link just yet. I mean the code just yet. All right, now it's Coolmore, 1400. So e4, I'm gonna play my beloved. Let's play the Caro-Kann. I just recently relaunched the Caro-Kann video. Got beautiful course on this. Maybe this guy has the e4 course. Maybe he'll play e5. Oh no, oh no. So my favorite here is to play c5. I really like this. I think it's a really good weapon even at my level, but it's a great weapon even at 1400 level. So the critical approach is always to take on c5, which my opponent is unaware of. But c5 is wonderful because you actually have this opportunity to develop your bishop, which I'm about to do. I'm going to pin this. And people just don't play the structure well at all with white. They just don't know what to do. I'm going to go, I guess, e6 here. I'm trying to think if I can take. There is no way you can take and then like win the bishop because the knight always comes and protects. So for example, take, queen a5, knight c3 is nothing. I'm gonna go e6, and I think what I'll do here is I'm gonna what's the word? And what's the word I'm looking for? Reinforce my knight with this knight. There's also queen b6. Queen b6 is always a very useful move because it attacks the center and the bishop. This is not a great setup by white because if you think about it, white has put 4 pawns in the center on dark squares, like this, and 2 more, so 6 out of 8 pawns on dark squares, which means the dark squared bishop should be getting traded. If you trade the light squared bishop and everything is on a dark square, that doesn't make much sense. Okay, I want to go queen b6. The reason I'm not rushing with pawn takes pawn is because the knight still gets to go to c3. If the knight is committed to d2 already, then I will take because the knight will no longer be active. So I like knight e7 here. I like queen b6. I think they're both good. I don't know which one is better, if I'm being honest. But if I play knight e7, is there the option to take on c5? There might be. There might be the option at that point to take on c5. So maybe maybe a little queen b6 action never hurt anybody. So now I put pressure on the center and the bishop. Now taking is what I want, because then I just, no questions asked, I get the bishop for the knight, and I might even take with the pawn. I might even take with the pawn so that my center is more defendable. We'll figure that out. And in the Caro-Kann, sometimes these pieces wait a little bit. They wait to get involved. So, okay. a4. Here's the thing. I can actually win this pawn. I can play takes, 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 queen d4. The question is that too dangerous because I'm not developed enough? I evaluate it as too dangerous because I'm not developed enough. The engine might find a way to defend it, but I'm going to go for it because I want to show you how to deal with pressure. That's actually, like, I'm not going to play it safe because I feel like at the intermediate level, if you see that your opening is about to pay off and you are going to cash in, you're going to go for it because, like, that's why you got the courses, right? Because now you know how to punish, like, these kind of mistakes. So I'm going to win this pawn for sure. The thing is, I'm lacking in development, and it's going to take me about 4 moves to get castled safely, because if I put this knight on this square, bishop out, and here. In that time, we're going to see if my opponent can develop an initiative which is strong enough. Now, I am actually threatening to win a second pawn, but that is really dangerous for me, because bishop comes out, knight comes out, I don't know. I feel like the engine will defend this, but I'm not an engine. Okay. So, ideas to get developed. Take second free pawn, but then bishop f4. Man, that looks too much. That actually looks too much. Bishop b4, knight e7, or just knight e7, or maybe a6. I think I'm going to go knight e7, but I'm not fully confident about this. I just want a knight there. And you say, well, why would you block in your bishop? The truth is, if I move my bishop to b4, it could become a target too. For this knight even to drop back. And bishop c5, there was this. So you always need to be on the lookout for how they can hit you. You know, bishop e3, I'm going to take. Bishop e3, I'm going to take this pawn. If you insist, I will take 2 pawns. Tough position. I think white is fine. I think white is doing well here. bishop f4. Obviously, one of the rooks is coming to the party. Oh, but I think this is inaccurate because now I can win some time. I think I can go here. And the hardest part to see about this position is that my queen can take on f4. Like, I can see the opponent thinking, this is my idea, and play rook d1, but forget that this is the idea. And now if the bishop moves, oh, and that's exactly what happened. They went for a queen trade, and they blundered a piece. So we will analyze this, for sure. It was very tough to see that my idea was actually to slide over with my queen, because my queen seems so immobile, right? It's going to be a target for the opponent to just attack throughout the game. But there was that. There was that. It's tough. Chess is hard. My phone just dinged. It's my anonymous training partner texting me. It's Mr. I Hate Rook A4. You will never know who it is. All of your guesses. By the way, those of you who are guessing that it's my best friend from childhood, Alex Ostrovsky, because you know Alex Ostrovsky, it's obvious. That's too obvious of a guess. Come on. And those of you guessing that my anonymous trading partner is Hikaru or a super GM, that is pathetic of you to guess that. How insulting. Can you imagine a player dedicating their entire life to chess and making it to the top 10, if not the top 5, and YouTube commenters think that they're losing half their games to me in training games? Guys, come on. No. It's obviously someone closer to me in strength. You have no idea who it is. You'd never guess it. It's not anybody you know. It's not anybody that's, it's just a humble title player who's, also competing. So, anyway, like I said, these are like mini podcast episodes. While my opponent thinks I can talk about different stuff. Knight takes f4. I like to launch these episodes on the weekend. It gives me a little time to just sit and relax and actually just talk a little bit about chess. Well, I can just take this now. So I didn't want to develop my bishop earlier because it could become a target, but now, by the way, see, it's a target. So if I castle, bishop takes knight, removes the defender of the bishop. You see that? And then knight takes bishop. So let's just go to e7. The good thing is that when queens and more pieces are traded, I'm not as worried. So what I mean by that is, in this position, there was a lot more firepower on the board from white's side. But now that a bishop and a queen have been removed from the game, we're not as stressed out. And, I gotta tell you, probably 60%, 70% of my YouTube audience is below the level of 1400. 1400 is actually nearing the 70 and 80th percentile because so many new players have joined the chess world since the Queen's Gambit and the pandemic. And this should inspire you. I mean, Caro Khan is a good opening, and so far, last game, a 1200. And listen, I'm not trying to get on anybody's case. 1200 didn't know how to play critically against London on move 2. Knight c6 is an inaccurate move, so I hope William Hogbin and anybody stops putting their knight in front of their c-pawn. And Colmore needs to review what to do against the c5 Caro. People didn't know what to do against move 3. Did not play as a good plan. We played solidly, and we got a good position. We can take one more pawn, but I want to stay at least a little principled. Let me castle. All right, and now we're going to try to convert this endgame. And by try, I mean absolutely succeed. So, yeah, people are not playing these opening plans. Not necessarily the theory. It's not about memorization, but the plan by white wasn't even the best. Because against c5, you got to take. And then a3 is the critical line, which you would know if you had the Caro course. Or if you watched like a tremendous amount of videos, then a3 is the critical line against c5 in the opening. You take and play a3. Nobody below the level of like 2000 even tries to do that because they don't know. So the rook is under attack. And if this, then I have rook b8. Obviously, we want to trade everything. So rook b8, there is this. So I'm just going to do this. Now we're guaranteed to trade pieces, which is nice. So that move actually doesn't do anything, meaning this is protected, so I don't need to rush. I can probably even... Right now is actually a great moment to just make a left. So you just never blunder mate, because you know you're capable of that. Let's just not blunder a mate. The bishop guards this. I can also move my a-pawn out of the way, or there's going to be a moment where this king can open up, and on this diagonal I can catch something like this. But yeah, let's just play a5. So that's not a problem anymore. And you'll win this with a couple of different ways. You can trade the knights, you can trade all the rooks, you can trade the bishop for the knight, or you can advance your pawns, or a combination of all of those things. That's the way you win this position. So let's go here. Let's go here. And actually this move and taking my pawn would run into a fork. Okay, well, I'm not even going to think. I'm just going to... Okay, yeah, the idea is to create a passed pawn, obviously. So a couple of ways we can do this. I can push both my pawns, too, by the way. I also have pawns. Knight e4 attacks my bishop. Don't hang your bishop. It's never too late to do that. That doesn't threaten anything, but it's actually a good move. And like I said, now you can just go for a knight trade if you really want. You can play like knight d7 and knight c5. And you are completely in time to stop this pawn. So knight c5, you want to get rid of the blockade of your a-pawn. Of course, if the knights are traded, I mean, it's not even it's a very easy win, so the knight should, yeah, stay on the board. And now don't push the pawn near the king. Obviously, push the pawn that's not near the king. Knight c4 is actually resilient, though. Knight c4 will continue to defend a little bit. But then I can come back. Because again, I don't care about the knight taking me. I care about losing a bishop for free. Okay, now there's no way to stop the pawn. So as long as you're trading, yeah, see, now you don't care because you have this. Now the pawn just makes it through. Very common idea to beat a knight to the end of the board by giving away one of your pieces. So now we make a queen. This pawn is too slow. It's just never going to get there in time. And you win this by rounding up the rest of the pawns or just promoting another queen because we still have a passed pawn. I didn't miss mate, did I? No, some queen h1. No, there was no mate. Now queen h1 is very strong because you x-ray the knight. So we have this, this, and you can chase the king around a million times, but you can just make a second queen. That's probably the easiest thing to do. No stalemate because all this, and now they're mate. This is mate in one, I think. Double queens. Yep. Double queens, and then everything is occupied. So quick analysis of this game, bishop b5, something like, you know, something like this after knight c6, bishop b5. I think actually, according to theory, the best move here is to take and then play bishop d7. This is what theory recommends, because you block out the bishop and you threaten to take on e5. Yeah, so theory recommends taking, and here, again, you can try to play optimal theory, but if you just play normal moves, you're going to get a great position. And I wonder if this is too dangerous. No, the engine thinks it's fine. And it likes knight e7, and yeah, this unfortunately runs into this move. So if something like rook d1 was played here, this is probably the way to go. Sack 2 pawns, bring all the pieces to the party, but still black is fine because black has 2 extra pawns. So interesting. We found a way to win that d4 pawn, which does happen a lot in these Caro-Kann structures if the opponent's not careful and we keep it moving. Okay, real alpha. I'm going to go e4 this game. Okay, knight c3. Peert's defense with g6. Okay, Peert's defense. In the e4 course, like the OG of the OG, I have a variation here which I really, really love. Not a lot of people know it, and it scores really well. And the variation is h3. And the whole point is actually to play g4, which is one of my favorite ways to play against the Pierce setup with d6, knight f6. Like, it's the King's Indian setup, but it's against e4, d4, so... And this is the idea. So we're going to be playing bishop to g2 and knight to e2 and even sometimes f4. We're just going to get this march of pawns. Because in the Pierce, black has several ways of counterplay. Some on the queen side with a6, b5. Sometimes c5 to kind of complement this bishop. Sometimes e5. And this setup somehow targets all of those methods of counterplay. Sometimes f5, but f5 is going to be really tough to pull off now. For example, c5, you can even close up the position, but what I like to do is I actually like to play knight e2 or bishop e3 and recapture in the center. If you take with the bishop in the center, you can actually trade the entire kind of gem of the black position, which is the bishop on g7. And if black ever plays e5 like this, you can block the middle of the board, and now that bishop is just kind of stupid. So yeah, now is really the moment of truth. What do we do? Do we close the middle? Or do we keep that tension and try to trade that piece off? Or do we take? We actually could potentially capture. Or do we take with the knight and then kind of keep playing with bishop? I gotta think. I think I'm gonna push. I'm just gonna decide to do this. All the methods are actually completely fine. But now, black's counterplay is limited to the break with c6, which is not as strong, since we have so much support on that pawn, or f5. And f5 is just suspicious now. Well, right now it just loses, because the king's still in the middle. If castles and f5 happens, we'll be ready. We're going to take 2 times, and then we're going to just play normal chess. Put this knight on g3, or just e2 and castle. And there's a secret plan. The secret plan is actually we can just go long, which sometimes comes out of nowhere because it looks like we're just setting up to develop our king to the short side. Yeah, so there's c6. By the way, I can take and take on d6, by the way, which the engine might actually bless that plan. I want to avoid being so greedy. I want to just develop the rest of my army first before taking. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the engine actually really likes taking on d6. But if the opponent takes on d5, I'm going to take with the knight and create what's called a backwards pawn. This is called a backwards pawn because the neighbors are gone and we control the square in front of it. So we're going to have a nice time here. What are we at? 33 minutes in the video? All right, it's time to tell you the code. So September's ending soon. And since September is ending, I'm gonna pay homage to Green Day. And the code is Green Day. Green, as in the color, G-R-E-E-N, day, D-A-Y, one word. And holy crap, the move G5 just got played. Wow. So G5 is stopping F4. But it's drastically weakening this. And I'm gonna go for it. I mean, that is a massive weakening of that square. Now, the opponent does have the corresponding plan. They could go for that square, which is totally fair. The problem is, because I have a lead in development, all my threats will be created first. So by the time the opponent mimics me and plays this maneuver, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves with the same piece. 5 moves with the same knight. Meanwhile, I'm going to be castled. I'm going to have the rest of my army out. So even though we can have kind of the corresponding maneuvering idea, I'm gonna get there first, for sure. And by the way, I might not even want to trade this bishop. I just hope we're on the same page. I can take this for free, but I'm not sure I want to trade that. I actually think this bishop taking my knight on that square and opening up my bishop is better. Why? Because this bishop sucks. If I remove the good bishop and leave black with the crappy bishop, well, then I've just basically removed 2 bishops from the game. Whereas if I make a journey to take a really bad bishop, which is blocked in by its own pawns, the light squared bishop survives. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Anyway, go use the code Green Day. You can't use it on bundles. The bundles are already on a discount, so you can only use them on solo courses. But I believe you can use them on as many courses as you want. I don't limit it to one purchase. So... At some point, this is going to become useful too, just doubling this. Okay, so here's knight f5. Ah. Now I'm definitely... So that's free, by the way. That's still free, and yet I think it's better to play this. Why? We're about to have 1, 2, 3 pieces involved in an attack on the king. Then I'll bring my 4th piece, and then remember that sneaky plan of castling long? Yeah, it's going to be a serious problem. Now that maneuver doesn't even exist, because black has blocked in this piece. We've noticed a few times during these games that you have a good move, but sometimes you can look for better. This very subtle h-pawn push is a serious problem, because we're going to justify delaying our castling to open up that h-file. And in the future, queen f3, queen h3 will be a big deal. Okay, so I can take, and then I can even take on h6. But we're going to wait a minute. Do we want to do that, or do we want to stockpile some pressure first? Or do we want to take and come down the middle, because now the king is being attacked on both sides? I don't know. I don't know. It all looks good. If I take on g5 and take on h6, I'm pretty happy. If I start bringing my queen and getting some development, I'm also pretty happy. I'm not really unhappy in any of these positions. It all looks good. It's honestly really tough to say. I actually think I will go and take this. Now, if HG, well, then it's gonna be a short game, because that opens up the rook. I actually think sacrificing the h pawn and opening up your own rook is better. Black might see that we're threatening this and just take on g5, like, without even... But then the king is going to get hit from the other side. So then this diagonal becomes really powerful real estate for us, because we completely control the h-file. Yeah, I kind of expected that. So I got a couple of ways to do this. I can play queen f3, queen h3, and just go over there. That looks pretty devastating. I can try to open up that side, so takes and then take on d6. And that also looks pretty convincing. Let's... it all looks good. I don't know what the best thing to do here is. I think I'm gonna go this way. I really like that my queen can get to d5. Nice little clearance move coming in from the other side. That looks really good. Knight c6, queen d5. Yeah, so now I think just this, right? Rook f7 is the only move that doesn't just... It's the only legal move, so you have to play it. And then I would play knight takes d6. So we're cashing in. This is the cashing in process. Yeah. So we're going to win this pawn, and now we're going to win the f7 rook. But we can also do it patiently. For example, queen to e7, we don't even need to rush with taking, although it's going to happen. We can develop a piece. Sometimes keeping the tension is not the worst thing in the world. I mean, in your shoulders, probably bad, but there is a move like knight b4. Always have to be on the lookout. Hits your queen, hits this. Could be a little unpleasant. So, yeah, maybe we just cash in now. Just get the winning position and don't really hesitate. So now we are up a pawn. We have a pawn and a rook for a knight. And we will win this by a long castling and coming on down the middle. Now you cannot even develop the bishop because the knight is under fire. And this bishop is about to get a big reroute over here. That's a good move. Gotta think for a sec. This bishop's coming to e6. I'm not gonna get to put my bishop on that square, which is a little sad. Of course, we can just belligerently simplify. Like, don't even hesitate and just, you know. You can't really overanalyze this position. Prevent the knight from coming forward by sliding a pawn up one square. Very common idea. So, or like this. Knight e2 is not so scary because the knight has no way back. Yeah, so we can even do this. As funny as that looks. And now the knight has to come here, and we have traded off yet another piece. Oh, this is hanging. Oops. Play f3. And now the bishop will reroute like this. So our bishop kind of sucks. So does this bishop. You don't really need to worry about your king being in the middle because it's an endgame. So even at the cost of a check, you play king c2, and there's not enough pieces. There are only 2 pieces right now that can pose you any danger. It's the rook and the bishop, because this bishop is not scaring anyone. So it's you gotta combine abstract with specific. You know, you can't just be like, oh my god, my king's in the middle. So what? Even if your king was here, you'd be winning. Well, not in this particular position, because you'd lose your rook. But even if the king was on d5, like, you could just run around. You could probably even put the king on c7 and be winning. I'm not like, it's actually that good of a position because the rook and bishop don't coordinate that well. So you're fine even if, yeah, now bishop d5 would trade bishops, right? You're fine even if your king makes it to the middle of the board. Okay, I'm gonna be annoying and trade every piece. You can defend with the pawn or the king. We can give a check just for good measure. I will give you the lesson of bringing the king actively into the endgame. Oh, well, that's, I mean, I just push my pawn. Push my pawn again. And now my king slides out of the way. And like I said, there's nothing to fear. Especially because that bishop, you know, you go here. Now that you're protected, now we go and we get that rook in there. And we get that bishop out of there. Now just don't blunder some random flank pawn trick. Sometimes you forget. Now we're winning. Don't stalemate. There's a lot of legal moves. You can actually do this now because it's check. Pawn's not going anywhere. And we have mate in 2 with a ladder. Corner check. Oh, there's king c7. It's mate in 3. Oops. Well, I should just resign now because I'm... Nope, yeah, it's mate in 3. There's too many escape squares. I thought king b6, rook b8. Okay, well. We have a lot of different ways to mate in 3 here. But, we'll sandwich mate with rook c8. Nice game. And by the way, that bishop survived the entire game, but it was the worst piece. It's kind of interesting. It was the worst piece on the board. E5, d5 is what the computer likes. It likes it more than opening up the position. And g5 is a big mistake. Big mistake. Black should, of course, castle and look for the pawn break. So black actually just has to not study the theory of their opening better, but understand the breaks that they're looking for in their opening a little bit better. But either way, this line from the e4 course, really, really good line. I love this line. I get some awesome positions playing h3, g4, bishop g2, I just have to say. So, and the critical line for black is some early h5, which I've had like once against me by some grandmaster and never ever beyond that. So, all right, time to move on to the 16 and 1700s. These are some serious folks. I think I've played Handlikes 1 or 2 times before, and really for the rest of this video, I've tried to select people I've never played. Okay, e4. Let us go with the. We're gonna play d5, but we're not gonna play the Scandinavian. So I played a Caro-Kann once, but now I'm gonna play d5. And knight f6. This is Gambit's course for black. Generally in these Win at Chess episodes, like if I'm gonna do some discount, I want to play some of the lines. Okay, this is a very sober variation. This is not gonna enter into some crazy Gambit territory. I really hate when people take and then trade the queen. That's just like so boring, but you know, sometimes it happens. People don't want to mess with your theory that you know, so they try to play super solid. Bishop c4 is a very common move. Queen f3 is very common. d4 is yes. Oh my god, is it actually gonna happen? They're gonna play queen f3 here. I'm gonna be so mad. Okay, knight f3 is actually a little bit more exciting. So knight c6, bishop g4, long castle. That's our game plan. That's our game plan. Knight c6, bishop g4, long castle. Or bishop g4, knight c6, long castle. Also, I actually think the best move is e5, like a very quick e5 is the top whatever computer's choice, because normally white has a pawn on d4, which they don't have right now. So like right now, the best move is d4 for white, but then we're gonna play bishop g4, or maybe it's like bishop e2 and then d4. But Again, rather than learning all the theory, I'm trying to show you the ideas. So bishop g4, long castle, and then there's going to be variations where white castle short, and we can just launch a very big attack. h5, g5, f5, or e6. Right, so now bishop g4. c4 is really not scary. It's not scary because white is not developed at all. So we always have a moment we can take on f3 in equal danger. I'm already starting to think about e5 and something like bishop b4. E5 actually does look pretty good. Can I castle long and play bishop f3 cd, bishop d1? Yeah, long castle looks really good. So does e6 and so does e5. I gotta think for a sec. I think e6 is a little bit maybe too solid. I'm killing my options there. By the way, I could also just take and then damage the f pawns, so I could just make them doubled and play an endgame. We could do that. But I feel like intermediates would not necessarily do that. Although it's not that bad to take and then double the pawns. Oh, should I do it? Should we play an endgame? Nah. Long castle. Long castle. Intermediates don't play endgames. Come on, let's be honest. Have you ever seen an intermediate play an endgame? Ever? Ever? Like, seriously, ever? No. Never. And if you're watching this and you're like, of course I do, then sorry. Okay. Now e5. Now e5, like, very much I want to play. Is there anything else? I swear I had a game in this before. In a How to Win at Chess episode. And I had this lineup on the queen. Because what my opponent has not done here is developed the right pieces. It's kind of interesting. The difference between developing, which is what you learn as a beginner, but developing the right pieces. Why the right pieces? Because you need to counteract my bishop pin, and you need to castle your king. This stays where it is. These pieces actually don't really matter in this setup. What matters is counteracting my bishop and playing castles. Because when you take, you are not yet castled, and I can play queen to e4. And that move is a serious problem. Because your queen is under attack, and your knight is under pressure, and I've got a new piece coming. So I'm going to have 5 pieces playing. Queen, rook, bishop, bishop, knight. You've got 3. 2.5, because I don't really consider the queen playing. It's going to be shielding the king. Queen should not be a human shield. You see my queen? It's a battering ram. It's a dragon. All right? It's coming full force, blowing fire. My opponent's queen is not doing that. So that's... the queen is not being used to its maximum potential. And it should be. Anyway. A little analogy for you. And by the way, if you don't take on e5, I'm going to take on d4. Right, so this is the plan. That's a very tough move. That's why you watch these episodes, to find moves like queen e4. Because on the one hand, you can just say, take, knight e5, and then I'm pinning this to the king. Yeah, but then just bishop e2, and you've traded a lot of pieces, and then you look at the engine afterward, you're like, what is queen e4? Why would I play that move? So you see, now that the opponent's suffocating, right? They can't develop their bishop. Now this move is much more powerful, knight takes e5, since there's no way to deal with this pin. Now this move is much stronger, I think. This is almost lost. Now white has to find danger level move, knight g5 or knight d2, which counterattack my queen, right? Although then I can move my queen anyway because my bishop is defended. And then the queen is still under attack. So for example, knight g5, maybe queen f5. Or do I have anything else? Like I was thinking bringing my queen over here or something. Oh, queen a4 is a crazy move. Wow, queen a4 is a crazy move. Because then I have like mate threats. Oh my god. So, like, look, knight g5, queen a4, like, let's say the queen tries to trade with me. I can sack my queen for mate as my bishop and rook. It's the Paul Morphy mate. Oh, if we get that, that would be beautiful. Knight d2 seems a bit more sensible because it's blocking my rook, but also you're suffocating there. I'm going to play queen c2, knight d3, and then you just lose. It's actually kind of crazy how powerful this delayed recapture on d5 is. Black Gambit's course. You know what to do. If you've been watching this long, you're still not convinced, this is your one time, 33% off, you know what I'm saying? What is bishop d4? Bishop d4. I didn't even think of this move. Okay. So, what if I take it? So I know I have a lot of checks. I can calculate all these checks to death. Here, bishop f3 definitely wins me a pawn. Knight d3 is good. What if rook d4? Knight d4, I take the queen. Done. Rook d4, queen e4, I take. Easy. What about this? Then we play knight takes f3, check. Pawn takes f3, and we want to take with the bishop. And we don't want them to be able to take... Oh, that's so nice. Look at this 4 sequence of moves. Rook takes d4. So we've calculated the other captures. If rook d4 here... At any given moment, we can play the move bishop b4 check. So, rook takes d4, c takes d4. I will throw in this check. And then when pawn takes, before I take, I'm going to give this check, force the king into the line of sight of my bishop, bishop f3, and we're going to win the game. I don't think that's the only way to do it, but I just showed you how exactly to calculate to get to this level. Not necessarily 2400, but at least 1600. Idea 1, white's response, 1, refutation. Refutation of idea 2. Now we have to figure out idea 3, which is more complex. Idea 1 and 2 we already figured out. Knight d4 and queen takes queen. C d4 was a little bit trickier, but by finding the most forcing moves, which were all checks, all of them were checks. This is check, and by the way, queen can't take me, right? And now... we have to find this check. That is the killer, because after king d1, we have bishop f3, and there is no queen trade after bishop f3. See that? Now, by the way, we also do have queen d4, and probably that's still winning, because we just take a lot of stuff, take a lot of material. But what a nice sequence here, and we might even end it off winning the rook, although there's a really nasty trick here. Yeah, if we take this, it's not good. That's why you always have to look for checks for your opponent. That's brutal. Be happy you made it this far. Check, 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 check. Oops, 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 oops. And you lose your queen. So I'm just going to go for this pawn. Ah, it's tricky. Tricky stuff. So I can take d4 probably. I don't see any reason not to do it. Our king is safe. We're winning as many pawns as we can. And we have to not get back rank mated. So king b8, and always a back ranker escape with a6 if we get attacked. Now we are also threatening this, by the way, which would pick up a bishop, which is nice. We would lose a bishop, but okay, the king is on b4, so I think we'll figure it out. Check. No back rank. Okay, we'll play a6 or something, or a5 even, because now we can attack the king, because it's so far, right? And we'll get the win here. But yeah, no need to resign. Play till mate. Make them prove that they know how to do it. Okay, I'll play a6. b5, c5, rook e8, rook e4. 2 more games, by the way. It's gonna be a good episode. I like to keep these under 90 minutes, to be honest. It's really hard when I play like 1800s and 2000s, because it ends up being a nearly 2-hour episode. I know you guys are always like, Levy, I would watch, doesn't matter. I like longer content. Okay, that's fine. Longer the better. Now we have this check. Ouch. 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 I will take this. Queens are so powerful. Some of these openings are also really powerful. It's like Scandinavian. Okay, simplify, push, 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 push. And you actually can just use the rook here Okay, well, he's not letting me use the rook. Now I'm gonna use the rook. You can use the rook as a protector of some of these things. But the easiest thing to do here, well, now it's just mate. Right? Use the pawns. Rook b1. What did the opponent do wrong? I told you. Didn't develop the right pieces. Sometimes it's crazy, but you need to develop the right thing. Bishop e3 is not the right thing. You need to, in these positions, develop this bishop so that this never works, because this is check, and the defender is removed from the knight. And if you, like, for example, I play the same way, then after you castle, then you can go to war with me. Because e5 will not work as long as your king is in the middle, because you'll hit my queen. This is the whole idea. You're going to hit my queen, make me move, and if I try to stick around like I did in this game, you kind of get this pawn wedge. But what happened in this game is we were able to get everything we wanted. We developed all our pieces and struck in the center. We're already better. And queen e4 is a tricky move. Queen e4 is a very tricky move to deal with. And unfortunately, this is just losing. Now, if knight d2 would have been played... Wow, the engine is so savage. It just wants to take this. I was going to go queen c2. But what I was showing you is knight g5 and queen a4, which is kind of a beautiful move, with the intention being that if this queen goes like to b5, we have this, which is the Paul Morphy checkmate. I really would have liked that, but sadly we didn't get it. But that was a good game. Okay, we're playing Zoom in the next game. Zoom is not online. So I'm going to instead go with Alex and ask Zoom how to spell their username. So we're playing Alex, and then I think Zoom, I spelled the username wrong. How do you spell your Chesscom username? Is it OO or zeros? All right, sorry, I have to make the game abort. What's going on here? This episode has quickly turned into a bit of a nightmare. What's going on? Alex? Hello? Make a move. No, what is happening? I don't want to edit anything out of this episode. Gotta tell my guy to make a move. Oh my gosh. What a blooper. What a blooper. Oh my gosh, my opponent's disconnecting. Oh my gosh. What is happening? Hello? Use code GREENDAY to get 33% off. My opponent said I'm trying to make a move and I can't. What does that even mean? Huh? Oh, finally. Play G6. The other course that I have. G6 course. Oh my god, that was terrifying. So there's another player who is supposed to play today, but their chess.com username is not coming up. Anyway, bishop g7. So, d6. Okay, sorry for the lull of 1 minute. But listen, if you've persevered to this point, we'll be all right. What a weird setup. What a strange setup. There's a couple of ways to play here with it's either e5 or c5, and I have to figure out how exactly I want to develop. I mean, I can go knight f6, and I can also play bishop g4. I like to play bishop g4. I like to play bishop g4, take, drop my knight back. So we will do it this way. I don't exactly know what my opponent wants either. They're sort of just making random moves. Let's go here. I'm trying to figure out where my opponents are. That's what's happening. A little bit of chaos. Because people sign up to play. It's very rare nowadays, but people will sign up to play and just completely leave. So a person just signed up and then just left, even though they confirmed that they wanted to play. So let's play knight f d7. This is how I like to play this, and try to go for e5. This knight waits a little bit, because if I had put it on c6, right, so now I'm getting this. If I had put it on c6, there's a chance it would have gone d5. Now a big question, does my opponent play d5? Okay, so now the game plan is going to be f5. This is the way you play this. This is like a typical attacking motif in this variation. However, I don't have a light squared bishop. So in traditional King's Indian positions, and you got to take with the pawn, do not take with the rook. You need your pawns to stand together. In a traditional King's Indian, your light squared bishop kind of patrols from a distance. But we don't have that right now. Normally, counterplay is created on the queen side in these sort of situations. But again, the opponent has no pawns there. You can't really create any counterplay against just a fully defended setup. So we're going to see how good my opponent is at dealing with play. Another idea, slide the king over to h8. And then play something like rook g8. Okay, so attack on the g file. Now, whether I'm going to play e4, f4 to be determined, f4 is actually worse, in my opinion, because what happens is even though this bishop just has to move, you don't have any more forward momentum. So e4, I actually think is better in many cases because your knight can come forward and the rest of your pieces can kind of come help. Whether I want to rush with it or not is another thing. So e4, bishop here, knight to e5. There's another idea of rerouting this knight, which sometimes occurs. I gotta think. Can also play knight f6, can also play king h8. Don't need to rush with anything. Can also put my queen on h4, because that also looks pretty menacing. Tough position. e4 strikes me as extremely natural, so I'm gonna do it. Although I'm not convinced. I actually think that maybe before I commit to e4, just getting my king out of the middle is good. See, bishop e2 gets in the way of that idea to bring the knight in a rerouting situation. Now f4, by the way, also looks good. I'm going to put my knight here. This was always the plan. Utilize the forward movement and then bring this knight next. f4 looks pretty smart. Or f3. No, f3 is not good. f3 is no good. f4 has to be played. f3 is not good because danger levels. I attack. And then I can use my tempo winning move on the bishop to lodge my pawns, and then I'm just much better. f4, I don't think I should take en passant. I don't think I should make it easier for my opponent to... Yeah, by the way, it's played. Nice move. So I'm gonna move. I'm gonna keep this wedge. g4, too weakening. Simply too weakening. The pawns on the king side just get a little bit too delicate. And doesn't that just give me the pawn that you just put there? No tactic, right? And this can end very quickly. Queen d2 loses the game on the spot. Queen d2 would lose immediately. And it looks very natural because you want my knight to move. Queen d2 would lose to queen g5, which threatens queen g2 mate. And knight takes h3. Check, winning that loose queen. Queen d2, queen g5 is brutal. It's really hard to see that when you play queen d2. But I have a feeling my opponent could be seeing it and trying to find an alternative. Because the thing is, with white, if you're smart, you're 1700, right? And not to equate rating with intelligence, but chess intelligence, let's put it this way. You're looking at queen g5 because you're looking at the quickest way to lose. Because that's what you should be doing, right? And so that's why opponent played this move. You should be constantly looking at what's the fastest way my opponent can just create a winning attack, which is why you would come up with that move. Now, I want to go knight d7. I still think it's time for me to bring my knight. I like bishop e5. It just looks like a really pretty move, just guarding my knight. Queen g5, knight h3 is a threat, but I don't really know what I'm doing after the king slides out of the way. So I'm going to play knight d7. So we're a pawn up. That wedge in the middle has still survived, which is really nice. It's a very instructive way of kind of cultivating this attack. Ooh, now I really want to go here, though. Now I really want to go there. I think it's a smart move. I think this trade is good for me, the bishop for the knight. Of course, I can always just slide out. So yeah, let's play queen g5. Queen d2, there is still knight h3. Or, okay, is this? This trade is really nice for me. Why? Opposite colored bishops favor the attacking player. Not to mention, everything is on a light square, which means all this real estate on dark squares is going to be up for grabs, and my bishop can fight for it, and not my opponent's bishop. So it's really nice. For me, not for my opponent. Not for my opponent. But for me, yes. I don't think my other opponent has checked in today. Or, yeah, I guess Zoom just not playing. Oops, sorry, takes. Now, well, we see the problem with the dark squares. It's okay. We'll have a 1-hour episode. I realized I'm supposed to talk, sorry. I'm not supposed to sit here quietly. Some of you have asked me to put background music for these episodes. Not gonna do that. No disrespect to your suggestion, but sometimes silence is okay. You shouldn't be afraid of it. Let's just slide out. And we are threatening to go like bishop e5, knight e5, knight f3. Knight e5, knight f3 looks very strong. f4, f3. It's tough to find the best move. Sometimes it's just the pawn move. I also can bring my rook and support my pawns. Everything looks good. Very tough to find the best move when everything looks like it works. You can stay a little patient. Bring both rooks to support the pawns, not rush anything. I like that. I feel like my rook is a little bit lonely. Oh, definitely no queen trade. I respect the offer, but no queen trade. But now I can't go f3, which is sad, because we're pinned. But no queen trade. Now, you could win this endgame, but no need. The knight is coming in. The question is, do I take it and open up the queen? It's actually fine. So don't blunder your queen. Oh my gosh. How many of you would have done that? Do not do that. That is a tragic way to lose one of these games. Also, don't hang your queen by playing f3. This is under attack. So I've given my opponent a little bit of counterplay. A little bit unnecessarily. But I did it kind of more so for just instruction. Queen c7 is going to come in. I'm going to lose some pawns. And I'm going to have to rely on my attack to win this game. Feels like a pretty natural... Oh, what is this? Come on. What is that move? Doesn't do anything. That's like I've surrendered the game. Oh, a3. I'm very mad about a3. No. You gotta... I understand you're playing me and you're going to be, in the episode. And you got to believe in your ability to hold the position a little bit. No, a3 is no good. You got to go queen c7. It's a free pawn. And then there's a bunch of more free stuff. I probably should have gone here to use the g file and also to get out of the way of any bishop c4, bishop d5, king g8. I want to do it now. But also f3 now is really, really powerful. This is protected by that rook I brought, and queen g2 and f2 is a problem. And you can kind of see, like, if f5 e4 becomes f2 e3, it's going to be a problem. The wedge just moves together. And yeah, f2 and everything. I think the only way not to get mated is to probably play... Oh, it's really tough anyway, because f2 is a problem. So if you play king h1 to prevent f2, you get mated. If you play queen c2, I play f2. So it's going to be GG. I think we're about to start wrapping up the episode. So everything that I said in the intro rings true. Shout out to G Fuel for sponsoring your boy. If you guys want to check out G Fuel, you know what to do. Code Gotham. And David Levine, man, that guy is unbelievable. And I really wanted to give him his props. I told him I would do it the last time I saw him, but it's been a while since I recorded How to Win at Chess. I'm not even gonna take this. I don't want it. I want mate. Bishop h7 is kind of like I have no clue what to do, so I'm gonna play a move, kind of move. Yeah, I mean, if you're in New York, New Jersey, anywhere in the area, definitely check him out. I was always I've been jaded by doctors, to be honest, in recent times. A lot of kind of half-ass care. It's typical for US, I feel like. I've noticed that treatment usually starts well, like first 2 or 3 sessions of physical therapy or anything is always good, but then it sort of quality goes down as more patients kind of come in. So shout out to him. Also shout out to G Fuel and shout out to the code Green Day. That was a little bit about the G6 course. Well, Bishop G7. Going back into a Peer's defense with Knight F6, only because my opponent set up like this. When people set up, the more aggressive setups, like this one with Long Castle, I usually go for B5 and I delay Knight to F6. But yeah, with Black, I played everything. I played my Caro Kann, the Black Gambits, and the G6 one. So interesting positions all around. With White, I was going to get a third game with White, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. So, anyhow. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening for my, to my different shoutouts, and peace out, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take use of the code while it's still there, and I'll see you in episode number 18.